Title: The Rule of Thirds. Module: Composition Mastery. Every successful photograph begins with one simple question. Where should the viewer look first? Composition is the art of answering that question. It is the process of arranging visual elements so that the viewer's eye naturally travels through the image in a meaningful way. Among the many principles of composition, one of the most useful and one of the easiest to learn is the rule of thirds. Imagine dividing your photograph into 9 equal rectangles using 2 equally spaced vertical lines and 2 equally spaced horizontal lines. The 4 places where these lines intersect are known as the power points, or points of interest. These locations naturally attract the human eye. Instead of placing your subject directly in the center of the frame, the rule of thirds encourages you to position important elements near these intersections. This often creates photographs that feel more balanced, dynamic, and visually engaging. Why does this work? Our eyes rarely enjoy looking at perfect symmetry all the time. While centered compositions can be powerful in certain situations, the human brain often finds slight asymmetry more interesting. Placing the subject slightly off-center creates visual movement. It invites the viewer to explore the rest of the frame rather than immediately reaching the end of the visual story. In fine art figure photography, the rule of thirds can be applied in many different ways. Imagine photographing a standing figure during sunrise. Instead of placing the model directly in the center, you position them along the left vertical third while allowing the rising sun and open landscape to fill the remaining space. The image suddenly feels more expansive. The empty space becomes part of the story, suggesting solitude, freedom, or reflection. The rule of thirds is equally useful in portrait compositions. Placing the subject's eyes near the upper horizontal third often creates a more natural and comfortable viewing experience. Because human eyes naturally seek other eyes, careful placement can significantly strengthen emotional connection. Negative space also becomes more effective when using this technique. Empty areas are not wasted space, they provide visual breathing room. They create balance and often communicate mood more powerfully than filling every corner of the frame with detail. However, it is important to remember that the rule of thirds is a guideline, not a law. Some of history's greatest photographs intentionally ignore it. Symmetrical compositions, centered subjects, and unconventional framing can all produce extraordinary images when they serve the artistic vision. The purpose of learning the rule of thirds is not to follow it forever. It is to understand why it works so that you can choose when to use it and when to break it. Many cameras today offer a grid display in the viewfinder or on the LCD screen. Turning on this grid is an excellent way to practice. As you compose each photograph, notice how moving the subject slightly toward one of the intersections changes the overall balance of the image. Over time, you will no longer need the grid. Your eye will naturally recognize balanced compositions without conscious calculation. This is how artistic instincts develop through repeated observation and practice. Another valuable exercise is to study the work of master photographers. Notice where they position their subjects. Observe how they use space around the body. Ask yourself why a particular composition feels calm, dramatic, intimate, or mysterious. You will soon discover that composition is less about following formulas and more about directing visual attention. In fine art nude photography, the rule of thirds becomes especially valuable because the human form itself contains many natural lines and curves. A shoulder, a hand, a face, or even the direction of a gaze can be positioned along the thirds to create elegant visual balance. But never allow composition to become mechanical. Photography is an art of observation, not mathematics. The rule of thirds simply offers a foundation upon which your own creativity can grow. As your experience increases, you will begin to compose instinctively. Sometimes you will use the rule of thirds. Sometimes you will deliberately ignore it. Both choices can be correct if they strengthen the story you wish to tell. Ultimately, composition is about guiding the viewer's experience. The rule of thirds is one of the first languages photographers learn. Artistic vision is knowing when to speak that language and when to create your own.